or a logo to Celestial Mining and Management accounting software for mining? Or is this Larry Chang Mining and Management accounting software for mining? Because that's what Is This a Starfish video is, which is stand-up comedy for accounting software. Would you like to meet up for a show in Orlando on May 6th at 7:01 p.m.? Yes, you would. That's a starfish. That's Is This a Starfish? Yes, it is. Because what we've now done is we've alleviated the pressure required to understand, is this a starfish? What is base number one? What is first base? We're talking about switching gears to dating now from accounting software back to stand-up comedy, which is, what is first base? But is the new first base. I don't want to be the bearer of new news, but it's absolutely true. This is unfortunate, a result of COVID, where people have decided, hey, we're never going to do kissing. We're just going to do the other things. When we remove first base and make but as the new first base, how many people go to first base? Fewer. Did I just explain the birth rate decline? Not collapse, but decline a little bit. Because do you know the difference between a starfish and another sea creature? I think we can explore that. Why? Because starfish has the double entendre of this, which is, do you see all the starfish that are laying along the seashore after a storm? So, a little boy is walking along the ocean, and he's walking and he sees a starfish laying there. Kind of like this one. And he flings it back into the ocean all the way, and then keeps doing this. And then he goes over and he goes, hey, there's another starfish. And the man goes, hey, what are you doing? And he flings another starfish all the way into the water. And then he says, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm saving starfish. And the guy goes, you're not going to be able to save all the starfish. The little boy, he just keeps walking along the ocean, picking up a starfish, like this cute one, and then flinging it back into the ocean. And then the old man's like, you're not going to be able to save all of them. And then the little boy turns to him and goes, well, it mattered to that starfish. And he flings another starfish. Why is this starfish story the pinnacle story that gets told? Because I can't save everybody from bankruptcy, but I can save the people that connect with me. Can I make everybody laugh? I could, but then I'd be LCD, lowest common denominator. But what if I were to bring in starfish as a logo to a company? So basically, I'm giving this cute little starfish a job. By the way, he doesn't have a name. He doesn't have a name, and we're not going to call him. Shania Trainwrecker, because he's the logo for an upcoming stand-up comedy fest, which doubles as a work conference, which we get paid to do, which is Starfish, Celestial Mining and Management accounting software for mining. Why Starfish? Because we're going to ask miners specifically, do you know the difference between your butthole and a hole in the ground? Because the name of this room is, do you know the difference between a bearded clam and your butthole? Because we get to determine and suss out the difference, because on women's bodies, those two things are super close together. This involves what? Starfish. It involves realizing that something really nice can be next to something that's surprisingly the joke meme, which is this. What is the new first base? What is the new first base in dating? So when you're hanging out, what is the new first base? What is first base? New or old? This is the participatory component of the crowd work of stand-up comedy. So if you're multitasking, hold on to your butts and focus, because we are going to be winning. All right, Brian Castellanos, let's go. What is first base? This is why stand-up in a small room is way more challenging than stand-up in a large packed room. This is why. Because there's gaps and there's hesitations and hezzies. And these hesitations interrupt the flow of comedy, which typically has a interruption of the expected, which is the definition of comedy, which is us playing at learning while we get better at listening. So, again, I ask, what is first base? What is chapter 1? What is chapter 1? So, the new first base is Starfish. Well, actually, not Starfish. That's like eating ass. But like tossing salad is not first base. That's like later base. But is the new first base. And that's why Starfish is the logo for the accounting software. Why? Because when but became the new first base, it's because people didn't want to take risks. Why? Because dating apps have taken over, and there's no risk in rejecting a person or asking person obnoxious things over dating and dating apps. That's why there's a thing called keyboard warrior, where you have so much confidence behind a keyboard, but then person to person, people are like, I don't know, I can't back that up. That's why but is a new first base, because people will gravitate towards grabbing ass as a how do you do first base, where it just skipped the step of kissing. Did I just solve procreation and solve low birth rates? Kind of, because what is the name of this room? This room is called Is That a Bearded Clam or Her Butthole? Because executives in business, this is the gap. This is the chasm to cross, which is this. Do you know the difference between your butthole and a hole in the ground? Because it turns out those aren't that easy to determine. Why? Because within the comedy of triples, something normal, something unexpected, is, as comedians, here's a great question. Focus. As an emerging communication artist or orator or person who's trying to get better at public speaking, why don't we do the harder version of Toastmasters, which is being heckled while we're attempting to do stand-up comedy? Because where's the pressure? The pressure's on the speaker not just to provide information, but to provide information in a way that makes me laugh. And what if I say something that where you should laugh and then you don't laugh? Now you're holding out. Now you see why this video is called "Is That a Bearded Clam or a Starfish?" Because you're literally holding in your contained laughter. Okay, so you're going to hold out on me, right? Because I've not been in relationships where people have held out. This is how to battle when people are holding out information, holding out laughter, holding out sex, holding out getting to first base. These are the countermeasures. You set aside your need for hearing laughter and you go right into entertaining the stand-up comedian who's going to be speaking after you. Do you see how now you're going to get laughter from literally out of left field because the comedian who's waiting to talk, they're listening to you, but what you're doing is you're making people that aren't even in the room laugh. Now what are you doing? You're adding peer pressure to the 15 people in the room of 80 people in eliciting laughter, and you're saying, hey, the smart people that are cool, they're laughing. What's up with you, and why are you so hesitant? Why are you so distracted? You can't rip people's phones out of their hands the way that you do at a comedy mothership event where everybody has to check their phone. We are now setting aside the need to make the audience laugh by providing useful content. What could be some of this useful content? I wonder if it could be top 10 comedian business skills within, hey, is this a starfish or a clam? Is this a hole in the ground or a starfish? Is this stand-up comedy, or is this stand-up comedy, or is this actually an MBA class on doing comedian content material, which is this. Just the tip. Only the tip. What happens when it's just the tip? Everything. This is why. When we're sharing an idea and it's just the initial inception of the idea, the rest of the idea ends up marinating, which is why business skill number 1 is just the tip. Remember, I started this video off with, hey, Starfish is actually the logo for Celestial Mining and Management accounting software for mining. And once that tip has been inserted, now you can realize that the value of the video has been marinating. It has been matriculating, because that's how we want to distribute our messaging, which is initially just the tip. And the second thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to delegate customer relationship management to Instagram or to some social app. That's a big, ginormous mistake, where you're taking a thing that should be delicious, right? And it's going slightly south, and now you're like, oh my God, what in the world was that disaster? That's stop delegating CRM, customer relationship management. The double identity. This is huge, because look at the name of this video. Is this a bearded clam or is this a starfish? The double identity of people that go for the dirt road, like going up the chocolate tunnel. That's not chocolate, and that's not a tunnel, and that's not butt pussy. That's just something else, and it's been marketed as, I don't know what it's been marketed as. To me, it's atrocious. That's why butt should not be the new first base. investment. When we take something that is seemingly super inexpensive and make it connect to something valuable, that's what a starfish is. So, are we investing in starfish? Well, we can invest in 2 of them or 1 of them. We can't invest in 1,000 of them. But what are we doing? We're able to make our first investment so that way this stand-up comedy now has a totem, something that you remember, which is, do you know the difference between your butthole and a hole in the ground and a starfish? Because now you do, because now you've purchased a starfish that then also doubles as watching me turn a joke into a franchise. Just like this not safe for work comedy stand-up turns into business advice slash just the tip of knowledge for comedians to then get better distribution. Next topic is doing a deal as a comedian. While normally we have a crappy business model that works like this. We go to open mic, we're one of 40 comedians, and we all get 3 minutes. We have to buy 2 drinks in order to perform. There are 40 comedians. Guess how many people there are in the audience? 25. So the comedian to audience ratio is already super messed up. How do you feel about that as a business model where you need to pay to get better? It turns out pay for play is very much par for the course. The comedic component to it is, what if we could get paid to work on our craft? And by thinking of HTG, HFA, OTR, which is how to get home field advantage on the road. Because if we're doing stand-up comedy in venues that we're not familiar with, that's not exactly home field advantage. And so the likelihood of us performing well is decreased slightly. But we're also focused on the business model of how do we make money per open mic? How do we close deals with other comedians so that way we get something that is a passive income stream of of intellectual property that we control? How do we close a deal? And that is using our comedic and artistic notebook for, will you buy this joke from me? During this time together, can I write a joke for you that you then purchase from me? Will you buy 1 joke from me? And guess what joke, not you guys, but that we could sell? We could sell you a starfish joke. Why? Because the starfish story is a flagship story for a child walking along the ocean, throwing back starfish, and then an old guy complaining, hey, you're not going to be able to save all the starfish. And the little child going, well, at least it mattered to that 1 starfish that I saved. This is us saving comedians by selling 1 joke and selling 1 starfish stuffed animal. Selling 1 joke, this is how we can ink that deal. If you make $15,000 using this joke, you are on the hook for paying me $2,000. Do we have a deal? And the deal making component practices what? Sure, we're practicing doing stand-up comedy at open mic with a starfish, but what we're really doing is we're practicing doing verbal deals. We're practicing being baby business people. And that's what the idea of this session for, is this a starfish or a bearded clam? Because remember, when the bearded clam loses its beard, now it's like a clean, freshly shaven vajayjay. And can you see the difference in the dark between that and her starfish? Can you? Because sometimes you can't. And then what happens when you don't? It's quite a different experience. The other thing with a cleanly shaven clam is, what if we're dating somebody who is South Indian? And then what the growth rate on pube is going from clean wood floors to oh my god, the stubble is next level, because that's the surprising component of being able to discern, is this a bearded clam or is this a starfish? Now, if we're able to sniff out and audit starfish, that's what we're also doing with the accounting software called Celestial Mining and Management Accounting Software for Mining, because now we can make a slew of smart decisions when it comes to mining management and looking forward into making financial decisions. Starfish. Starfish, bullet pointing to begin. Perpetual promotion machine. So there's this concept of using magnets that perpetually promotes machine magnets forward. And when that happens, something's getting defrauded, because there's no such thing as perpetual motion. That's 123. Number 124 is the cliff meme. So it didn't scale and your results fall off a cliff. That's 124. 125 is, hey, those results look pretty good. Can you repeat that? 126 is the meme of 32,569. Guess what? None of those blocks in the XRP ledger are present because it was all pre-mined. That's slide 126. 127, my new hot box. We're talking about bearded clams. That's slide 127, my new hot box. 128, is this data center more profitable as mining? No, it isn't. That's slide 128. 129 is dashboard. Do you know the difference between your butthole and the starfish? Well, you're going to know a lot more than that to the delta of bearded clam using slide 129 dashboard. 130 of 130. Is my starfish dusty? Oh, it turns out everybody's starfish gets eventually slightly dusty. That's slide 130. Slide 131, zoom out. Zooming out from the starfish, and you can actually see that it's Kennedy's fluffy butt, which is why 131 is a picture that's permission to put within Celestial Mining and Management Accounting Software for Mining inside the stand-up comedy of, is this a bearded clam or is this a starfish? Zoom out. Oh my God, that's Kennedy's butt. Consent accepted. 132, zoom in. Starfish, zoomed in, it looks a little different from the starfish. That's slide 132. 133, the economies of scale, the 3 laws of thermodynamics. So, economies of scale is where the big people get bigger and the rich people get richer. That's slide 133. That's economies of scale, and that the three laws of thermodynamics, undefeated. 134 is audit. That's what this stand-up comedy is, which is auditing the difference between clam and starfish. 134 is audit. 135 is the fraud of the 45-degree angle. When people lie, they lie in a straight line, unfortunately. And real data is not a 45-degree angle. 136, perfectly applicable to this room, which is hot tub time machine. Hot tub is heated water. In a hot tub, there needs to be chlorine. If you can't smell chlorine, there's an STD floating in that pool. I'm telling you right now, aren't I? Which is slide 136 is hot tub time machine. Hot tub time machine. Hot tub time machine. If you smell chlorine, that's okay. But if you smell just body smells, guess what? There's an STD floating in the water. That's slide 136, hot tub time machine, which is no wonder I have this rash because I didn't read slide 136, hot tub time machine. Have we hung out before in real life, Emma? 137, immersion cooling. So, what happens after you do hot tub time machining? You have to do a cooling off process. Immersion cooling for a flash cool is cold plunge. Immersion cooling in the ambient air is you temporarily getting ghosted. Immersion cooling for Bitcoin mining is where you run water to cool off the mining components to dissipate the heat. 137 is immersion cooling. 138 is hydroelectric. Hydroelectric helps us do great. Thank you so much for asking. 139, back to the title of this stand-up comedy routine, which is 139. Is this a hole in the ground or is this a starfish? 140 is geothermal. Geothermal is the heat of the earth in a hot springs heating up. Who likes to go into hot springs naked? Women do. And that's what geothermal is a natural hot tub time machine that's like how people did things when time began. 141 is wind power. Can you use wind power to mine Bitcoin? And how efficient are you? That'll be 141. How centralized is my starfish? That goes to the hash power and is it centralized? What we're talking about is stand-up comedy content for determining is if it's a bearded clam or is it a starfish? Because how centralized is your starfish is similar to asking the question of the name of this room, which is what level of centralization? So centralization also works for relationships. Where are we monogamous? Where am I only interacting with your bearded clam that now has no beard, or since we've been dating a while, you've let yourself go and now it's back to a bearded clam. Or if the red tide is in, now we're going to have to explore starfish. Not your starfish because that's gross. We're going to have to explore my starfish because your red tide is rolling in. Can we focus? How centralized is my starfish? That's 142. Oh, perfectly on cue for your question, which is 143, which is forking your starfish. What is forking it? Forking it is where you decide, or I decide, to have more options. That's forking my starfish. 145 is add one letter to it and make it slay. So this room is Celestial Mining Management and Accounting Software for mining companies. This room is this a bearded clam or a starfish? So if you add one word, you make it slay, you make it awesome, which is this bearded clam now no longer with beard? Because get it? Because back when we first started dating, you would take care of your lady parts and you would, go clean wood floors, right? And then that would be your signal for, oh my gosh, I'm ready, because the bra would also match the underwear, which should be this next slide. Does the bra match the underwear? Which is add one letter and make it slay is 145, which is Larry Chang Mining and Management Accounting Software for Mining. So I'm just adding an L to the CMMASFM. Why is it adding one letter wins every time? Why? Because we end up winning because we're adding one letter and we're making it slay. 145B is credit card. 146 is starfish. Do you like the starfish? Yeah, I drew that. 147 is a liquid node. Like a traditional node, but liquid. It's a liquid node. 122 is calculating return on investment. 121 is running an audit from across the street. You can figure out if the stand-up comedy routine is going well by doing an audit from across the street. Oh my God, this club looks like it's super packed. Like it's an audit from across the street. That's 121. 120 is auditing the auditor, meaning I don't know if I trust you to tell me what was funny or not funny. I'm going to test you to ask you, how many times did you laugh in bearded clam? Because if you never laughed at it, then I'm auditing the auditor, which is slide 120. Slide 119 is BFASB. Is this a joke that you've already heard? I don't think so. FASB, Financial Accounting Standards Board. BFASB is Bitcoin Financial Accounting Standards Board. BFASB. Are we adding a letter and making it slay? Yeah, but we're also doing slide 119, which is BFASB, depreciation schedule. 118 is scams. Helping me be a better comedian is really shilling me to pay some consulting fees. Slide 148, used equipment. Remember where we're asking, used equipment, 148. Do you remember asking whether or not the starfish were dusty? Well, that's used equipment. And typically it has a better ROI. It's kind of like meeting a 29-year-old or a 22-year-old and saying, right now I'm not going to be dating you, but when you turn 32 and you're a little bit less hot, maybe I'll date you. I actually go the opposite, where if she's 28, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have met you when you're 26, 25. This relationship would go much better. That's slide 148, used equipment. 149, sounds like it's a broker. We don't want to delegate business connections to a broker. That's 149. 150, pay your operational expenses without cashing in your Bitcoin. That's slide 150. 151 is aftermarket firmware. It's an external API. It's a right to repair. That's slide 151. 152, block templates. How are you able to better bolt on things with a template? Standardization is slide 153. That's bearded clam with starfish, with being able to tell the difference between your butthole and a hole in the ground. I've really enjoyed delivering you educational content buried within not safe for work content, which will be archived for a fee in the future when I remix every slide into an amazing new thing. Or you could front run that by remixing the content for your purpose. You put it remix, collab, green screen, and then you put it into a playlist, and then you put it onto a landing page. And if you want to sell one thing as a comedian, sell 2 landing pages, and I'll do your coding for you. It was great hanging out with you.